Ready, set, go.
Welcome to Tell Lanky Audio Theater. If you're new here, we're gonna be doing a nice live reading of some stuff. Today we get started on Douglas Adams' The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
I have my
Specifically,
towel.
grab your towel. Do not
Don't forget your
panic.
towel.
It's gonna be great. Specifically, we are doing the radio plays, which are, specifically written to be read aloud. So I figured this might be a better way to go than just reading from a copy of the book.
Yeah.
Yes. Far easier to follow this way too, especially for us.
Yes, very much. So, I am going to scroll on down to the actual beginning.
There are 18 pages of credits, introduction,
Yeah,
titles,
there's a
pages,
lot of
citations before we get to the actual start of the radio play.
It's
and
fine.
I love it. I think it's great.
It's fine.
Page 22.
Yeah.
Page 22.
All right.
Beautiful.
So then, with that, I'm gonna throw up the fancy little thumbnail that I made.
Let's see.
It's very fabulous.
Oh, I love it. That's an
Mm.
aesthetic right there.
Thank you. And I'll get started here. I will also be reading out a bunch of the sound effects cues.
Okay, you're gonna read.
Yeah.
Cool. As long as I know that, that's fine.
Yeah, I will be reading those in just my regular voice rather than the narrator voice.
Cool.
Woohoo!
Mm-hmm. Okay. And without further ado, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. Bit the first, in which the Earth is unexpectedly destroyed and the great hitchhike begins. This is the story of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, perhaps the most remarkable, certainly the most successful book ever to come out of the great publishing corporations of Ursa Minor. More popular than the Celestial Home Care Omnibus, better selling than 53 More Things to Do in Zero Gravity, and more controversial than Ulon Colfid's trilogy of philosophical blockbusters, Where God Went Wrong, Some More of God's Greatest Mistakes, and Who Is This God Person Anyway? And in many of the more relaxed civilizations on the outer eastern rim of the galaxy, The Hitchhiker's Guide has already supplanted the great Encyclopedia Galactica as the standard repository of all knowledge and wisdom, because although it has many omissions, contains much that is apocryphal or at least wildly inaccurate, it scores over the older, more pedestrian work in two important ways. First, it is slightly cheaper, and second, it has the words "Don't Panic" inscribed in large, friendly letters on the cover. To tell the story of the book, it is best to tell the story of some of the minds behind it. A human from the planet Earth was one of them, though as our story opens, he no more knows his destiny than a tea leaf knows the history of the East India Company. His name is Arthur Dent. He's a 6-foot-tall ape descendant, and someone is trying to drive a bypass through his home. We hear general road building noises, bulldozers, pneumatic drills, etc.
Oh, come off it, Mr. Dent. You can't win, you know? There's no point in lying down in the path of progress.
I've gone off the idea of progress. It's overrated.
But you must realize that you can't lie in front of bulldozers indefinitely.
I'm game. We'll see who rusts first.
I am afraid you are going to have to accept it. The bypass has got to be built, and it's going to be built. Nothing you can say or do.
Why has it got to be built?
What? What do you mean, why has it got to be built? It's a bypass. You've got to build bypasses.
Didn't anyone consider the alternatives?
There aren't any alternatives. Look, you are quite entitled to make any suggestion or protest at the appropriate time.
Appropriate time? The first I knew about it was when a workman arrived at the door yesterday. I asked him if he'd come to clean the windows, and he said he'd come to demolish the house. He didn't tell me straight away, of course. No, first he wiped a couple of windows and charged me a $5. Then he told me.
But, Mr. Dent, the plans have been available in the planning office for the last 9 months.
Yes, I went round to find them yesterday afternoon. You hadn't exactly gone out of your way to call much attention to them, had you? I mean, like actually telling anybody or anything?
The plans were on display.
And how many average members of the public are in the habit of casually dropping round at the local planning office of an evening? It's not exactly a noted social venue, is it? And even if you had popped in on the off chance that some raving bureaucrat wanted to knock your house down, the plans weren't immediately obvious to the eye, were they?
Well, that depends on where you were looking.
I eventually had to go down to the cellar.
That is the display department.
With a torch.
Ah, the lights have probably gone.
So had the stairs.
But you found the notice, didn't you?
Yes, it was on display in the bottom of a locked filing cabinet stuck in a disused lavatory with a sign on the door saying, "Beware of the leopard." Ever thought of going into advertising?
Not as if it's a particularly nice house anyway.
I happen rather to like it.
Mr. Dent,
Hello? Yes?
have you any idea how much damage that bulldozer could suffer if I just let it roll straight over you?
How much?
None at all.
By a strange coincidence, none at all is exactly how much suspicion the ape descendant Arthur Dent had that one of his closest friends was not descended from an ape, but was in fact from a small planet somewhere in the vicinity of Betelgeuse. Arthur Dent's failure to suspect this reflects the care with which his friend blended himself into human society after a fairly shaky start. When he first arrived 15 years ago, the minimal research he had done suggested to him that the name Ford Prefect would be nicely inconspicuous. He will enter our story in 35 seconds and say, "Hello, Arthur." The ape descendant will greet him in return, but in deference to a million years of evolution, he will not attempt to pick fleas off him. Earthmen are not proud of their ancestors and never invite them round to dinner.
Hello, Arthur.
Ford, hi, how are you?
Fine. Look, are you busy?
Well, I've got this bulldozer to lie in front of. Otherwise, no, not especially.
That's a pub down the road. Let's have a drink and we can talk.
Look, don't you understand?
Mr. Dent, we are waiting.
Ford, that man wants to knock my house down.
Well, he can do it whilst you're away, can't he?
But I don't want him to.
Well, just ask him to wait till you get back.
Ford.
Arthur, will you please just listen to me? I'm not fooling. I have got to tell you the most important thing you've ever heard. I've got to tell you now, and I've got to tell you in that pub there.
Why?
Because you're going to need a stiff drink. Now just trust me.
I'll see what I can do. It better be good. Hello, Mr. Prosser.
Yes, Mr. Dent, have you come to your senses yet?
Can we just for a moment assume for the moment that I haven't?
Well,
And that I'm going to be staying put here till you go away.
So
You're going to be standing around all day doing nothing.
Could be.
Well, if you're resigned to standing around doing nothing all day, you don't actually need me here all the time, do you?
No, not as such.
So, if you could just take it as read that I am actually here, I could just slip off down to the pub for half an hour. How does that sound?
Sound very, very reasonable, I think, Mr. Dent. However, I'm sure we don't actually need you to be here the whole time. Can we just hold up our end of the confrontation?
And if you want to pop off a bit later, I can always cover for you in return.
Oh, thank you. Yes, that will be fine, Mr. Dent. Very kind.
And of course, it goes without saying that you don't try to knock my house over whilst I'm away.
What? Good lord, no, good lord, Mr. Dent, no. The merely thought hadn't even begun to speculate about the merest possibility of it crossing my mind.
Do you think we can trust him?
Myself? I'd trust him to the end of the earth.
Yes, but how far's that?
About 12 minutes away. Come on, I need a drink.
By drink, Fort Prefect meant alcohol. The Encyclopedia Galactica describes alcohol as a colorless, volatile liquid formed by the fermentation of sugars, and also notes its intoxicating effect on certain carbon-based life forms. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy also mentions alcohol. It says that the best drink in existence is the Pan-Galactic Gargle Blaster, the effect of which is like having your brain smashed out with a slice of lemon wrapped around a large gold brick. The guide also tells you on which planets the best Pan-Galactic Gargle Blasters are mixed, how much you can expect to pay for one, and what voluntary organizations exist to help you rehabilitate. The man who invented this mind-pummeling drink also invented the wisest remark ever made, which was this: never drink more than 2 Pan-Galactic Gargle Blasters unless you are a 30-ton elephant with bronchial pneumonia. His name is Zaphod Beeblebrox, and we shall learn more of his wisdom later. Pub interior, general conversation chatter, clink of glasses, jukebox, and whatnot.
6 pints of bitter. And quickly, please. The world's about to end.
Oh, yes, sir. Nice weather for it. Going to watch the match this afternoon, sir.
No. Point.
Foregone conclusion that, you reckon, sir? Arsenal without a chance?
No, it's just that the world's going to end.
Oh, yes, sir. As you said, lucky escape for the Arsenal if it did.
No, not really.
Here you are, sir. 6 points.
Drinks are put on the bar. Banknotes rustle.
Keep the change.
What? From a fiver? Thank you, sir.
You've got 10 minutes left to spend it.
Ford, would you please tell me what the hell is going on? I think I'm beginning to lose my grip on the day.
Drink up. You've got 3 pints to get through.
3? At lunchtime?
Time is an illusion. Lunchtime doubly so.
Very deep. You should send that in to the Reader's Digest. They've got a page for people like you.
Drink up.
Why 3 pints?
Muscle relaxant. You'll need it.
Did I do something wrong today, or has the world always been like this and I've been too wrapped up in myself to notice?
All right. I'll try to explain. How long have we known each other, Arthur?
5 years? Maybe 6. Most of it seemed to make some kind of sense at the time.
All right. How would you react if I told you I'm not from Guildford, after all, but from a small planet somewhere in the vicinity of Beetlejuice?
I don't know. Why? Do you think it's the sort of thing you feel you're likely to say?
Drink up. The world's about to end.
This must be Thursday. I never could get the hang of Thursdays. On this particular Thursday, something was moving quietly through the ionosphere miles above the surface of the planet. But few people on the surface of the planet were aware of it. One of the 6,000 million people who hadn't glanced into the ionosphere recently was called Lady Cynthia Fitzmilton. She was at that moment standing in front of Arthur Dent's house in Cortington. Many of those listening to her speech would probably have experienced great satisfaction to know that in 4 minutes' time she would evaporate into a whiff of hydrogen, ozone, and carbon monoxide. However, when the moment came, they would hardly notice because they would be too busy evaporating themselves.
I have been asked to come here and say a few words to mark the beginning of work on the very splendid and worthwhile new Bevingford bypass. And I must say immediately what a great honor and a great privilege I think it must be for you, the people of Cottington, to have this gleaming new motorway going through your cruddy little village. I'm sorry, your little country village of cruddy Cottington.
There are shouts from the annoyed crowd.
I know how proud you must feel at this moment to know that your obscure and unsung hamlet will now arise reborn as the very splendid and worthwhile Cottington service station, providing welcome refreshment and sanitary relief for every weary traveler on his way.
Why don't you push off, you crud-faced old bat? What about our bloody homes?
Without our bloody homes.
Yeah!
And for myself, it gives me great pleasure to take this bottle of very splendid and worthwhile champagne and break it against the noble prow of this very splendid and worthwhile yellow bulldozer.
The bottle smashes against the bulldozer, which begins to rumble forward. There are loud cheers and also a perfunctory ripple of applause from one or two hired lackeys. Back to the pub interior, the muffled sound of the house being knocked down filters through. What's that?
Don't worry, they haven't started yet.
Oh, good.
It's probably just your house being knocked down.
What?
Hardly makes any difference at this stage.
My God, it is! What the hell are they doing? We had an agreement!
Let them have their fun.
Damn you and your fairy stories! They're smashing up my home! He runs out of the pub. Stop, you vandals! You homewreckers! You half-crazed Visigoths! Stop, will you?
Arthur, come back! It's pointless! Hell, I'd better go after him. Barman, quickly, can you just give me 4 packets of peanuts?
Certainly, sir. There are 28 pence.
Note slaps on the table.
Keep the change.
Are you serious, sir? I mean, do you really think the world is going to end this afternoon?
Yes, in just over 1 minute and 35 seconds.
Well, there anything we can do?
No, nothing.
I always thought we were meant to lie down and put a paper bag over your head or something.
If you like, yes.
Will it help?
No. Excuse me, I've got to find my friend.
Oh, well then. Last orders, please.
Outside. You pinstriped barbarians! I'll sue the council for every penny it's got! I'll have you hung, drawn, and quartered, and whipped, and boiled, and then I'll chop you up into little bits until you've had enough!
Arthur, don't bother! There isn't time. Get over here. There's only 10 seconds left.
And then I'll do it some more, and when I've finished, I will take all the little bits, and I will jump on them. And I will carry on jumping on them until I get blisters, or I can think of something even more unpleasant to do, and then I'll... What the hell's that? An unearthly scream of jets thunders across the sky. Mass pandemonium breaks out, with people shouting, running in every direction.
Arthur, quick, over here!
What the hell is it?
It's a fleet of flying saucers. What do you think it is? Quick, you've got to get hold of this rod.
What do you mean, flying saucers?
Just that. It's a Vogon construction fleet.
Oh, what?
A Vogon construction fleet. I picked up news of their arrival a few hours ago in my sub-ether radio.
Ford, I don't think I can cope with any more of this. I think I'll just go and have a little lie down somewhere.
No! Just stay here. Keep calm. Just take a hold of...
The A PA channel clicks open, and this alien voice reverberates across the land.
People of Earth, your attention, please. This is Prostetnik Volgan Jets of the Galactic Hyperspace Planning Council. As you will no doubt be aware, the plans for the development of the outlying regions of the western spiral arm of the galaxy require the building of a hyperspace express route through your star system, and, regrettably, your planet is one of those scheduled for demolition. The progress will take slightly less than 2 of your Earth minutes. Thank you very much.
The channel clicks off. There is a wild hubbub of protest as panic breaks out. There is another click as the channel opens again.
There's no point in acting all surprised about it. All the planning charts and demolition orders have been on display at your local planning department in Alpha Centauri for 50 of your Earth years, so you've had plenty of time to lodge any formal complaints, and it's far too late to start making a fuss about it now.
There is more protesting hubbub.
What do you mean you've never been to Alpha Centauri? Oh, for heaven's sake, mankind, it's only 4 light years away, you know. I'm sorry, but if you can't be bothered to take an interest in local affairs, that's your own lookout. Energize the demolition beams. God, I don't know, apathetic bloody planet. I've no sympathy at all.
A low throbbing hum which builds quickly in intensity and pitch. Wind and thunder, rending, grinding, crashes. All the niggling little frustrations that the BBC's sound effects engineers have ever had all come out in a final devastating explosion which then dies away into silence. A faint but clear background hum starts up. Various quiet electronic mechanisms, a few vague rustles of movement, some softly padding footsteps.
I bought some peanuts. If you've never been through a matter transfer beam before, you've probably lost some salt and protein. The beer you had should have cushioned your system a bit. How are you feeling?
Like a military academy. Bits of me keep on passing out. If I asked you where the hell we were, would I regret it?
We're safe.
Good.
We're in a small galley cabin in one of the spaceships of the Vogon construction fleet.
Ah, this is obviously some strange usage of the word safe that I wasn't previously aware of.
I'll have a look for the light.
All right. How did we get here?
We hitched a lift.
Excuse me, are you trying to tell me that we just stuck out our thumbs and some bug-eyed monster stuck his head out and said, "Hi fellas, hop right in, I can take you as far as Basingstoke Roundabout"?
Well, the thumb's an electronic sub-ether device. The roundabout's a Bernard's star 6 light years away, but otherwise, that's more or less right.
And the bug-eyed monster?
Is green, yes.
Fine. When can I go home?
You can't. I found the light.
The light... There's a sound of light going on in a Vogon spaceship. Ah, oh, good grief. Is this really the interior of a flying saucer?
It certainly is. What do you think?
It's a bit squalid, isn't it?
What did you expect?
Well, I don't know. Gleaming control panels, flashing lights, computer screens. Not old mattresses.
These are the Dentresi sleeping quarters.
I thought you said they were called Vogons or something.
The Vogons run the ship. The Dentresi are the cooks. They let us on board.
I'm confused.
Here, have a look at this.
What is it?
The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's a sort of electronic book. It'll tell you everything you want to know. That's its job.
I like the cover. Don't panic. It's the first helpful or intelligible thing anybody said to me all day.
That's why it sells so well. Here, press this button and the screen will give you the index. Several million entries, fast wind through the index to V. There you are. Vogon construction fleets. Enter the code on the turbulator and read what it says.
Vogon constructor fleets. Here is what to do if you want to get a lift from a Vogon. Forget it. They are one of the most unpleasant races in the galaxy. Not actually evil, but bad-tempered, bureaucratic, officious, and callous. They wouldn't even lift a finger to save their own grandmothers from the ravenous bug-blatter beast of Troll, without orders signed in triplicate, sent in, sent back, queried, lost, found, subjected to public inquiry, lost again, and finally buried in soft peat for 3 months and recycled as firelighters. The best way to get a drink out of a Vogon is stick your finger down his throat, and the best way to irritate him is to feed his grandmother to the ravenous bug-blattered beast of Troll. What a strange book. How did we get a lift there?
That's the point. It's out of date now. I'm doing field research for the new revised edition of the guide. So, for instance, I will have to include a revision pointing out that since the Vogons have made so much money being professionally unpleasant, they can now afford to employ Dentresi cooks, which gives us a rather useful little loophole.
Who are the Dentrasi?
The best cooks and the best drink mixers, and they don't give a wet slap about anything else. And they will always help hitchhikers on board, partly because they like the company, but mostly because it annoys the Vogons, which is exactly the sort of thing you need to know if you're an improvised hitchhiker trying to see the marvels of the galaxy for less than $30 trillion a day. And that's my job. Fun, isn't it?
It's amazing.
Unfortunately, I got stuck on the Earth for rather longer than intended. I came for a week and was stranded for 15 years.
But how did you get there in the first place?
Easy. I got a lift with a teaser. You don't know what a teaser is. I'll tell you. Teasers are usually rich kids with nothing to do. They cruise around looking for planets which haven't made interstellar contact yet, and buzz them.
Buzz them?
Yes, they find some isolated spot with very few people around, then land right by some poor, unsuspecting soul whom no one's ever going to believe, and then strut up and down in front of him wearing silly antennae on their head and making beep, beep noises rather childishly.
Ford, I don't know if this sounds like a silly question, but what am I doing here?
Well, you know that. I rescued you from Earth.
And what has happened to the Earth?
It's been disintegrated.
Has it?
Yes, it just boiled away into space.
Look, I'm a bit upset about that.
Yes, I can understand.
So what do I do?
You come along with me and enjoy yourself. You'll need to have this fish in your ear.
I beg your pardon. A rather extraordinary noise starts up. It sounds like a combination of gargling, howling, sniffing, and fighting off a pack of wolves. What the devil's that?
Listen, it might be important.
What?
It's the Vogon captain making an announcement on the PA.
But I can't speak Vogon.
You don't need to. Just put the fish in your ear. Come on, it's only a little one.
The cacophonous and highly imaginative sounds described above abruptly transform into the voice of the alien who addressed the Earth.
Should have a good time. Message repeat. This is your captain speaking, so stop whatever you're doing and pay attention. First of all, I see from our instruments that we have a couple of hitchhikers aboard our ship. Hello, wherever you are. I just want to make it totally clear that you are not at all welcome. I worked hard to get where I am today, and I didn't become captain of a Vogon constructor ship simply so that I could turn it into a taxi service for degenerate freeloaders. I have sent out a search party, and as soon as they find you, I will put you off the ship. You're very lucky. I might read you some of my poetry first. Secondly, we're about to jump into hyperspace for the journey to Bunard's star. On arrival, we will stay in dock for a 72-hour refit, and no one is allowed to leave that ship during that time. I repeat, all planet leave is cancelled. I've just had an unhappy love affair, so I don't see why anyone else should have a good time. Message ends.
Charming, these Vergons. I wish I had a daughter so I could forbid her to marry one.
You wouldn't need to. They've got as much sex appeal as a road accident. And you'd better be prepared for the jump into hyperspace. It's unpleasantly like being drunk.
Well, what's so unpleasant about being drunk?
You ask a glass of water.
Ford,
Yes.
what's this fish doing in my ear?
Translating for you. Look, under Babelfish in the book.
There's a book sound interrupted by a sudden swelling sound of fantastic acceleration. What's happening?
We're going into hyperspace.
Ah, I'll never be cruel to a gin and tonic again. The sound distorts totally. The narrator's voice cuts across it. The babelfish is small, yellow, leech-like, and probably the oddest thing in the universe. It feeds on brainwave energy, absorbing all unconscious frequencies and then excreting telepathically a matrix formed from the conscious frequencies and nerve signals picked up from the speech centers of the brain. The practical upshot of which is that if you stick one in your ear, you can instantly understand anything said to you in any form of language. The speech you hear decodes the brainwave matrix. Now, it is such a bizarrely improbable coincidence that anything so mind-bogglingly useful could evolve purely by chance that some thinkers have chosen to see it as a final clinching proof of the non-existence of God. The argument goes something like this. I refuse to prove that I exist, says God, for proof denies faith, and without faith I am nothing. But, says man, the babelfish is a dead giveaway, isn't it? It proves you exist, and so, therefore, you don't. QED. Oh dear, says God. I hadn't thought of that, and promptly vanishes in a puff of logic. Oh, that was easy, says man, and for an encore he proves that black is white and gets killed on the next zebra crossing. Most leading theologians claim that this argument is a load of dingoes' kidneys, but that didn't stop Oolon Colfid making a small fortune when he used it as the central theme of his best-selling book. Well, that about wraps it up for God. Meanwhile, the poor babelfish, by effectively removing all barriers to communication between different cultures and races, has caused more and bloodier wars than anything else in the history of creation. What an extraordinary book!
Help me write the new edition.
No, I want to go back to Earth, I'm afraid, or its nearest equivalent.
You're turning down 100 billion new worlds to explore.
Did you get much useful material on Earth?
I was able to extend the entry, yes.
Oh, let's see what it says in this edition then.
Okay.
Let's see. Earth. Type out the code. There's the page. Oh, it doesn't seem to have an entry.
Yes, it does. See, right there at the bottom of the screen, just under Excentra Galambits, the triple-breasted whore of Eroticon 6.
What? There? Oh, yes. Harmless. Is that all it's got to say? One word? Harmless? What the hell's that supposed to mean?
Well, there are 100 billion stars in the galaxy and a limited amount of space in the book, and no one knew much about the Earth, of course.
Well, I hope you've managed to rectify that a little.
Yes, I transmitted a new entry off to the editor. He had to trim it a bit, but it's still an improvement.
What does it say now?
Mostly harmless.
Mostly harmless?
That's the way it is. We're on a different scale now.
Okay, Ford. I'm with you. I'm bloody well coming with you. Where are we now?
Not far from Bernard's Star. It's a beautiful place and a sort of hyperspace junction. You can get virtually anywhere from there.
There are marching feet outside.
That is assuming that we actually get there.
There is a banging on the steel door. What's that?
Well, if we're lucky, it's just the Vogons come to throw us into space.
And if we're unlucky,
If we're unlucky, the captain might want to read us some of his poetry first.
Vogon poetry is, of course, the third worst in the universe. The second worst is that of the Asgoths of Krea, during a recitation by their poet master Grunthos the Flatulent of his poem Ode to a Small Lump of Green Putty I Found in My Armpit One Midsummer Morning. 4 of his audience died of internal hemorrhaging, and the president of the Mid-Galactic Arts Nobbling Council survived by gnawing one of his own legs off. Grunthos is reported to have been disappointed by the poem's reception and was about to embark on a reading of his 12-book epic entitled My Favorite Bath Time Gurgles, when his own major intestine, in a desperate attempt to save humanity, leapt straight up through his neck and throttled his brain. The very worst poetry of all perished along with its creator, Paula Nancy Millstone Jennings of Greenbridge, in the destruction of the planet Earth. Vogon poetry is mild by comparison, and when the Vogon captain began to read it, provoked this reaction from Ford Prefect. And this from Arthur Dent.
Oh, freddled grunt bugly, thy micturations are to me as plurdled gabble blotchets in a lurged bee. Group, I implore thee, my funting turtling dromes, and hooptitiously drangle me with crinkly bindle wordles, for otherwise I will rend thee in the gobberworts with my burgle crunchin', see if I don't. So, earthlings, I present you with a simple choice. I was going to throw you straight out into the empty blackness of space, to die horribly and slowly, but there is one way, one simple way in which you may save yourselves. Think very carefully, for you hold your very lives in your hands. Now choose! Either die in the vacuum of space, or...
Dramatic chord.
Tell me how good you thought my poem was.
Will our heroes survive this terrible ordeal? Can they win through with their integrity unscathed? Can they escape without completely compromising their honor and artistic judgment? Tune in next week for the next exciting installment of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Yeah.
Except next week is like right now.
Yeah, we're gonna keep on going into...
Janet, you're very good at reading made-up words on the fly.
Yeah, you really knocked that out of the park.
Like, honestly, like, some of those words I would have had to take a moment.
You should have seen me, though. I was literally, like, right beside my computer. Like, I had my computer, like, 2 inches in front of my face trying to read all those words.
Very good.
Nice.
Moving on.
All right.
Fit the second.
In the zone.
After being saved from certain death during the demolition of the Earth, Arthur Dent now faces a helpless choice between meeting certain death in the vacuum of space or finding something pleasant to say about Vogon poetry. Far out in the uncharted backwaters of the unfashionable end of the western spiral arm of the galaxy lies a small, unregarded yellow sun. Orbiting this at a distance of roughly 19 million miles is an utterly insignificant little blue-green planet whose ape-descended life forms are so amazingly primitive that they still think digital waters are a pretty neat idea. This planet has, or had, a problem, which was this. Most of the people living on it were unhappy for pretty much of the time. Many solutions were suggested for this problem, but most of these were largely concerned with the movements of small green pieces of paper, which is odd because on the whole it wasn't the small green pieces of paper that were unhappy. And so the problem remained. and lots of the people were mean, and most of them were miserable, even the ones with digital watches. Many were increasingly of the opinion that they'd all made a big mistake in coming down from the trees in the first place. And some said that even the trees had been a mad move, and that no one should ever have left the oceans. And then one day, nearly 2,000 years after one man had been nailed to a tree for saying how great it would be to be nice to people for a change, a girl sitting on her own in a small cafe in Rickmansworth suddenly realized what it was that had been going wrong all this time, and she finally knew how the world could be made a good and happy place. This time it was right, it would work, and no one would have to get nailed to anything. Sadly, however, before she could get to a phone to tell anyone, the Earth was unexpectedly demolished to make way for a new hyperspace bypass, and so the idea was lost forever. Meanwhile, Arthur Dent has escaped from the Earth in the company of a friend of his who has unexpectedly turned out to be from a small planet somewhere in the vicinity of Beetlejuice. His name is Ford Prefect, for reasons which are unlikely to become clear again at the moment, and they are both in dead trouble with the captain of a Vogon spaceship.
So, Earthlings, I present you with a simple choice. Think carefully, for you hold your very lives in your hands. Now choose. Either die in the vacuum of space, or...
Dramatic chord, similar to that from Monty Python and the Holy Grail when they asked for a shrubbery.
Tell me how good you thought my poem was.
I liked it.
Oh, good.
Oh, yes, I thought that some of the metaphysical imagery was really particularly effective.
Yes?
Oh, and interesting rhythmic devices, too, which seem to counterpoint the,
Counterpoint the surrealism of the underlying metaphor of the
humanity of the,
vulgarity.
vulgarity, of the poet's compassionate soul, which contrives through the medium of the verse structure to sublimate this, transcend that, and come to terms with the fundamental dichotomies of the other. And one is left with a profound and vivid insight into
Whatever it was the poem was about. Well done, Arthur. That was very good.
So what you're saying is that I write poetry because underneath my mean, callous, heartless exterior, I really just want to be loved. Is that right?
Well, I mean, yes. Don't we all deep down, you know?
No. Well, you're completely wrong. I just write poetry to throw my mean, callous, heartless exterior into sharp relief. I'm going to throw you off the ship anyway. Guard! Take the prisoners to the number 3 airlock and throw them out.
They are grabbed and put up a struggle. The struggle continues during all the ensuing dialogue.
You can't throw us off into deep space. We're trying to write a book.
Resistance is useless.
I don't want to die now. I've still got a headache. I don't want to go to heaven with a headache. I'd be all cross and wouldn't enjoy it.
You can't do this.
Why not, you puny creature?
Oh, why not? Why not? Does there have to be a reason for everything? Why don't you just let us go on a mad impulse? Go on, live a little. Surprise yourself.
He is cut off by the door humming closed.
Counterpoint the surrealism of the underlying metaphor. Oh, death's too good for him.
Fade to Ford and Arthur struggling as they are dragged down a corridor.
Ow! Let go of me, you brute!
Don't you worry, I'll think of something.
Resistance is useless.
I woke up this morning and thought I'd have a nice, relaxed day, do a bit of reading, brush the dog, and it's now just after 4 in the afternoon, and I'm already being thrown out of an alien spaceship 5 light years from the smoking remains of the Earth.
All right, just stop panicking.
Who said anything about panicking? This is still just culture shock. You wait till I've settled down in the situation and found my bearings a bit. Then I'll start panicking.
Arthur, you're getting hysterical. Shut up.
Resistance is useless.
You can shut up as well.
Resistance is useless.
Oh, give it rest. Do you really enjoy this sort of thing?
Resistance is. What do you mean?
I mean, does it give you a full, satisfying life? Stomping around, shouting, pushing people out of spaceships?
Well, the hours are good.
They'd have to be.
But now you come to mention it, I suppose most of the actual minutes are pretty lousy. Except some of the shouting I like. Resistance is.
Sure, yes, you're good at that, I can tell. But if it's mostly lousy, then why do you do it? What is it? The girls? The leather? The masochismo?
Machismo.
Machismo? Is that what that? I don't even know
Yeah.
what that word is.
The-
Machismo?
Well, I don't know. I think I sort of do it, really.
There, Arthur. You think you've got problems.
Yeah, this guy's still half throttling me.
Yeah, but try to understand his problem. Here he is, poor lad. His entire life's work is stamping around, throwing people off spaceships
And shouting.
and shouting, sure, and he doesn't even know why he's doing it.
Sad.
Well, now that you put it like that, I suppose.
Good lad.
But all right, so what's the alternative?
Well, stop doing it, of course.
Mm, Well, that doesn't sound great to me.
Now, wait a minute. That's just the start. There's more to it than you can see.
No, I think if it's all the same to you, I'd better just get you both shoved into the airlock and then go and get on with some of the other bits of shouting I've got to do.
On. Now look.
Ow, stop that!
Hang on. There's music and art and things to tell you about yet. Ah!
Resistance is useless! You see, if I keep it up, I can eventually get promoted to senior shouting officer, and there aren't usually many vacancies for non-shouting and non-pushing people about officers, so I think I'd better stick to what I know. But thanks for taking an interest. Bye now!
Stop, don't do it!
No, listen, there's a whole world you don't know anything about. Here, how about this? Da 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 da. Doesn't that stir anything in you?
The airlock door opens.
Bye! I'll mention what you said to my aunt.
Airlock door closes.
Potentially bright lad, I thought.
We're trapped now, aren't we?
Yes, we're trapped.
Well, didn't you think of anything?
Oh, yes, but unfortunately it rather involved being on the other side of the airtight hatchway we've just been sealed behind.
So, what happens next?
The hatchway in front of us will open automatically in a moment, and we'll shoot out into space and asphyxiate in about 30 seconds.
So, this is it. We're going to die.
Yes. Except... No. Wait a minute. What's the switch?
What? Where?
No, I was only fooling. We're going to die after all.
You know, it's at times like this when I'm trapped in a Vergon airlock with a man from Beetlejuice and about to die of asphyxiation in deep space that I really wish I listened to what my mother told me when I was young.
Tell you.
I don't know, I didn't listen.
Terrific.
There's a click, hum, whoosh as the airlock door opens and they are expelled. The sound doesn't so much fade as empty,
because sound doesn't carry in a vacuum, and so it gets dispersed with the escaping air. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is a truly remarkable book. The introduction starts like this. Space, it says, is big. Really big. You just won't believe how vastly, hugely, mind-bogglingly big it is. I mean, you may think it's a long way down the street to the chemist, but that's just peanuts to space. Listen. And so, after a while, the style settles down a bit, and it starts telling you things you actually need to know. Like the fact that the fabulously beautiful planet Bethselemin is now so worried about the cumulative erosion caused by 10 million visiting tourists a year that any net imbalance between the amount you eat and the amount you excrete whilst on the planet is surgically removed from your body weight when you leave. So every time you go to the lavatory, it is vitally important to get a receipt. In the entry in which it talks about dying of asphyxiation 30 seconds after being thrown out of a spaceship, it goes on to say that what with space being the size it is, the chances of being picked up by another craft within those seconds are 2 to the power of 267,709 to 1, against which, by a staggering coincidence, was also the telephone number of an Islington flat where Arthur once went to a very good party and met a very nice girl whom he entirely failed to get off with. Though the planet Earth, the Islington flat, and the telephone have all now been demolished, it is comforting to reflect that they are in some small way commemorated by the fact that 29 seconds later, Ford and Arthur were in fact rescued. And there is a positive montage of sound. The airlock door opening and then closing, a rush of air, gasping and gurgling from Ford and Arthur. This is overlaid with the sound of several electronic computer voices chattering semi-comprehensibly, saying things like infinity minus 2 seconds, infinity minus 4 seconds, alien body intake at entry bay 2, high improbability factor, checking, improbability coefficient of infinity minus 1, coefficient factorable, factorize, alien lifeforms carbon-based, intake sector, galactic coordinate ZZ9 plural Z alpha. This is really a wild flurry of sound which quickly dies away into the background as the dialogue begins. Soon after, a slow, quiet wash of sound builds up behind the voices, partly reflecting what they say they can see around them, but also with many random elements with an unreal, dreamlike quality, not unlike parts of Revolution No. 9 from the Beatles' White Album. All the sounds change imperceptibly before it's really possible to hear exactly what they are. So for instance, the sound of the washing of sea waves could almost be asthmatic breathing instead. And the sound of traffic in the street could also be galloping hooves, but isn't.
There you are. I told you I'd think of something.
Oh, sure.
Bright idea of mine to find a passing spaceship and get rescued by it.
Oh, come on. The chances against it were astronomical.
Don't knock it. It worked. Now, where are we?
Well, I hardly like to say this, but it looks like the seafront at Southend.
God, I'm relieved to hear you say that.
Why?
Because I thought I must be going mad.
Perhaps we weren't rescued at all. Perhaps we died.
I meant to mean.
When I was young, I used to have this nightmare about dying. I used to lie awake at night screaming. All my school friends went to heaven or hell, and I was sent to Southend.
Perhaps better ask somebody what's going on. How about that man over there?
The one with the 5 heads crawling up the wall.
Yes.
Sir, excuse me. Excuse me. On top of everything else, there is wild trumpeting and bellowing like an elephant or something. You know, if this is Southend, there's something very odd about it.
You mean the way the sea stands steady as a rock and the buildings keep washing up and down? Yes, I thought that was odd.
A girl's voice cuts through the increasingly dreamlike quality of everything going on. There is a slight PA quality to it, but it is very clear and projected. The girl's name is Trillian.
2 to the power of 100,000 to 1 against and falling.
What was that?
Sounds like a measurement of probability. Hey, that couldn't mean... No.
What?
I'm not sure, but it means we definitely are on some kind of spaceship.
Southern seems to be melting away. The stars are swirling. A dust bowl. Snow. My legs drifting off into the sunset. Hell, my left arm's come off too. How am I going to operate my digital watch now? Ford, you're turning into a penguin. Stop it.
2 to the power of 75,000 to 1 against and falling.
Hey, who are you? Where are you? What's going on? And is there any way of stopping it?
Please relax. You are perfectly safe.
That's not the point. The point is that I am now a perfectly safe win, and my colleague here is rapidly running out of limbs.
It's all right. I've got them back now.
2 to the power of 50,000 to 1 against and falling.
Admittedly, they're longer than I usually like them, but...
Isn't there anything you feel you ought to be telling us?
Welcome to the starship Heart of Gold. Please do not be alarmed by anything you see or hear around you. You're bound to feel some initial ill effects as you have been rescued from certain death at an improbability level of 2 to the power of 267,709 to 1 against, possibly much higher. We are now cruising at a level of 2 to the power of 25,000 to 1 against and falling, and we will be restoring normality as soon as we are sure what is normal, anyway. Thank you. 2 to the power of 20,000 to 1 against and falling.
This is fantastic! We've been picked up by a ship with the new infinite probability drive. This is really incredible, Arthur. Arthur? What's happening?
Odd. There's an infinite number of monkeys outside who want to talk to us about this script for Hamlet they've worked out. The infinite improbability drive is a wonderful new method of crossing interstellar distances in a few seconds, without all that tedious mucking about in hyperspace. The principle of generating small amounts of finite improbability by simply hooking the logic circuits of a Bamblewinnie 57 submeson brain to an atomic vector plotter suspended in a strong Brownian motion producer, say a nice hot cup of tea, were of course well understood, and such generators were often used to break the ice at parties by making all the molecules in the hostess's undergarments simultaneously leap 1 foot to the left in accordance with the theory of indeterminacy. Many respectable physicists said that they weren't going to stand for that sort of thing, partly because it was a debasement of science, but mostly because they didn't get invited to those sort of parties. Another thing they couldn't stand was the perpetual failure they encountered in trying to construct a machine which could generate the infinite probability field needed to flip a spaceship between the furthest stars, and in the end, they grumpily announced that such a machine was virtually impossible. Then, one day, a student who had been left to sweep up the lab after a particularly unsuccessful party found himself reasoning this way. If such a machine is a virtual impossibility, then it must logically be a finite improbability. So all I have to do in order to make one is to work out exactly how improbable it is, then feed that figure into the finite improbability generator, give it a fresh cup of really hot tea, and turn it on. He did this and was rather startled to discover that he had managed to create the long sought after infinite improbability generator out of thin air. It startled him even more when, just after he was awarded the Galactic Institute's prize for extreme cleverness, he got lynched by a rampaging mob of respectable physicists who had finally realized that the one thing they really couldn't stand was a smart ass.
5 to 1 against and falling. 4 to 1 against and falling. 3 to 1, 2, 1. Probability factor of 1 to 1. We have normality. I repeat, we have normality. Anything you still can't cope with is therefore your own problem. Please relax. You will be sent for soon.
Yeah. Who are they, Trillian?
Just a couple of guys we picked up in open space. Sector ZZ9, plural Z Alpha.
Yeah, well, that's very sweet though, Trillian. Do you think it's really wise under the circumstances? I mean, we are on the run and everything, and we've got the police of half the galaxy after us, and we stopped to pick up hitchhikers? Okay, so 10 to 10 for style, but minus several millions for good thinking, eh?
Zafford, they were floating in unprotected in open space. You didn't want them to die, did you?
Oh, not as such, no, but...
Anyway, I didn't pick them up. The ship did it all by itself.
What?
Whilst we were in improbability drive.
That is incredible.
No, just very, very improbable. Look, don't worry about the aliens. They're just a couple of guys, I expect. I'll send the robot down to check them out. Hey, Marvin?
I think you ought to know I'm feeling very depressed. Oh, God.
Well, here's something to occupy you and keep your mind off things.
Won't work. I have an exponentially large mind.
Marvin?
All right, what do you want me to do?
Go down to number 2 entry bay and bring the 2 aliens up here under surveillance.
Just that?
Yes.
I won't enjoy it. Oh, she's not asking you to enjoy it. Will you just do it? All right, I'll do it. Good. Great. Thank you. I'm not getting you down at all, am I?
No, Marvin, that's just fine, really.
I wouldn't like to think I'm getting you down.
No, don't worry about that. You just act as comes naturally and everything will be fine.
Are you sure you don't mind? No, it's all just part of life. Life. Don't talk to me about life.
Oh yeah, Marvin hates its door hums shut. Sorry.
I don't think I can stand that robot much longer, Zafford.
The Encyclopedia Galactica defines a robot as a mechanical apparatus designed to do the work of a man. The marketing division of the Sirius Cybernetics Corporation defines a robot as your plastic pal who's fun to be with. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy defines the marketing division of the Sirius Cybernetics Corporation as a bunch of mindless jerks who'll be the first against the wall when the revolution comes, with a footnote to the effect that the editors would welcome applications for anyone interested in taking over the post of robotics correspondent. Curiously enough, an edition of the Encyclopedia Galactica that fell through a time warp from 1,000 years in the future defined the marketing division of the Sirius Cybernetics Corporation as a bunch of mindless jerks who were the first against the wall when the revolution came.
I think the ship is brand new, Arthur.
How can you tell? Have you got some exotic devices for measuring the age of metal?
No, I just found this sales brochure lying on the floor. The universe can be yours. Ah, and look, I was right. Sensational new breakthrough in improbability physics. As the ship's drive reaches infinite probability, it passes through every conceivable point in every conceivable universe almost simultaneously. You select your own re-entry point, but be the envy of other major governments. This is big league stuff.
It looks a hell of a lot better than that dingy Vogon ship. This is my idea of a spaceship, all gleaming white, flashing lights, everything. What happens if I press this button?
I wouldn't.
Almost simultaneously with Ford saying I wouldn't, there is an electronic beep. Oh,
What happened?
a side meetup saying please do not press this button again.
They make a big thing of the ship's cybernetics. A new generation of serious cybernetics corporation robots and computers with the new GPP feature.
GPP? What's that?
It says genuine people personalities.
Sounds ghastly. The door hums open with a sort of optimistic sound.
Tis
What?
ghastly. It all is. Absolutely ghastly. Just don't even talk about it. Look at this door. All the doors in this spacecraft have a cheerful and sunny disposition, and it's all their pleasure to open for you and their satisfaction to close again with the knowledge of a job well done.
The door closes with a satisfied sigh.
Hateful, isn't it? Come on. I have been ordered to take you up to the bridge. Here I am, brain the size of a planet, and they tell me to take you up to the bridge. Call that job satisfaction? 'Cause I don't.
Excuse me, which government owns this ship?
You watch this door. It's about to open again, and I can tell by the intolerable air of smugness that suddenly generates. Come on.
The door opens and says, glad to be of service.
Thank you. The marketing divisions of the Sirius Cybernetics Corporation.
The door closes, saying, you're welcome.
Which government owns this ship?
Let's build robotics with genuine people personalities, they said. So they tried it out with me. I am a personality prototype. Can you tell, can't you? I hate that door. I'm not getting you down, am I?
Which government owns this ship?
No government owns it. It's been stolen.
Stolen?
Stolen?
By who?
Zaphod Beeblebrox.
Zafe or Beeblebrox?
Sorry, did I say something wrong? Oh, pardon me for breathing, which is, I never did anyway, so I don't know why I bothered to say it. Oh God, I'm so depressed. There's another one of those self-satisfied doors. Life. Don't talk to me about life.
No one even mentioned it.
Zaphod Beeblebrox.
On the bridge. The following is obviously heard on a radio. We can hear Zaphod and Trillian reacting with the occasional laugh. And the news reports brought to you here on the sub-ether waveband, broadcasting around the galaxy around the clock. And we'll be saying a big hello to all intelligent life forms everywhere. And to everyone else out there, the secret is to bang the rocks together, guys. And of course, the big news story tonight is the sensational theft of the new improbability drive prototype ship by none other than Zaphod Beeblebrox. And the question everyone's asking is, has the big Z finally flipped? Beeblebrox, the man who invented the pan-galactic gargle blaster, ex-confidence trickster, part-time galactic president, once described by eccentrica Galumbits as the best bang since the big one, and recently voted the worst-dressed sentient being in the universe for the 7th time running. Has he got an answer this time? We asked his private brain care specialist, Dag Halfrut. No, that's
looks
you.
like Zaphod's just the guy for you now. For you know.
Radio switches off.
Why did you turn it off for, Trillian?
Zaphod, I've just thought of something.
Yeah?
We picked those couple of guys up in Sector... Zaphod, please take your hand off me. And the other one. Thank you. And the other one.
I grew this one specially for you, Trillian. You know that? Took me 6 months, but it was worth every minute.
We picked them up in Sector ZZ9, plural Z Alpha. Does that mean anything to you?
On the whole, no.
It's where we originally picked me up. Let me show it to you on the screen.
There are electronic sounds.
Right there.
Right. I don't believe it. How the hell did we come up to be there?
Improbability drive. We passed through every point in the universe, you know that.
Well, yes, by picking them up here is just too strange of a coincidence. I want to work this out. Computer!
Hi there.
Oh, God.
I want you to know that whatever your problem, I'm here to help you solve it.
The new reaction.
It says Atlantic.
Honestly, it's perfect. It's perfect. The Canadian version of Atlantic is new.
It says Atlantic, baby.
I love it so much.
Carry on.
Look, I think I'll just use a piece of paper.
Sure thing, I understand if you ever need.
Shut up!
All right.
Trillian, listen. The ship picked you up. The ship picked them up all by itself, right?
Right.
So that already gives us a piece of a high improbability factor. It picked them up in that particular space sector, which gives us another high improbability factor. Plus, they were not wearing spacesuits, so we picked them up during a crucial 30-second period.
I've got a note of that factor here.
But put it all together, and we have a total improbability of, well, it's pretty vast, but not infinite. At what point did we actually pick them up?
At infinite improbability level.
Which leaves us a very large improbability gap still need to be filled. Look, they're on their way up here now, aren't they? With that, oh, bloody robot. Can we pick them up on the monitor cameras?
I should think so.
There are electronic switches. We overhear a snatch of dialogue from Ford, Arthur, and Marvin over a small speaker.
And then, of course, I've got this terrible pain in all my diodes down my left side.
Is that so?
Oh, yes. I mean, I've asked for them to be replaced, but no one ever listens.
I can imagine.
God, I don't believe it.
Oh, well, they fought Beeblebrox.
I don't believe it. This is too amazing. Look, Trillian, I'll handle this. Is there anything wrong?
I think I'll just wait in the cabin. I'll be back in a minute.
Oh, why, this is going to be great. I'm going to be so unbelievable cool about it. Would flummox a vegan snow lizard. This is terrific. What really cool. Several million points out of 10 for style.
Well, you enjoy yourself, Zafford. I don't see what's so great myself. I'll go and listen for the police on the sub-ether wave band.
Right, okay. This is the most nonchalant chair to be discovered working at. Okay.
The door opens, saying, "Glad to be of service."
I suppose you'll want to see the aliens now. Do you want me to sit in a corner and rust and just fall apart where I'm standing? Show them in, please, Marvin. with great cool. Oh, Ford, hi. How are you? Glad you could drop in.
Hey, Fud, great to see ya. You're looking well. The extra arm suits you. The ship you've stolen.
You mean you know this guy?
Know him. He's... Oh, Zaphod. This is a friend of mine, Arthur Dent. I saved him when his planet blew up.
Sure. Hi, Arthur. Glad you could make it.
And Arthur, this is my...
We've met.
What?
Have we... Hey.
What do you mean you've met? This is Zafold Beeblebrox from Beetlejuice 5. You know, not bloody Martin Smith from Croydon.
I don't care. We've met. Haven't we, Zaphod? Or should I say, Phil?
What?
Mind me, I have a terrible memory for species. Hi, Ford.
It was at a party.
I rather doubt it.
Cool it, will you, Arthur?
A party 6 months ago on Earth, England, London.
Uh,
Islington.
yeah.
Zaphod, you don't mean to say you've been on that miserable little planet as well, do you?
No, of course not. Well, I may have dropped in briefly on my way somewhere.
What is all this, Arthur?
At this party, there was a girl. I'd had my eye on her for weeks. Beautiful, charming, devastatingly intelligent, everything I'd been saving myself up for. And just when I'd finally managed to get her for myself for a few tender moments, this friend of yours barges up and says, "Hey, doll, is this guy boring you? Come and talk to me. I'm from a different planet." I never saw her again.
Zaphod?
Well, yes, he only had the 2 arms and the 1 head, and he called himself Phil, but the door opens.
But you must admit that he did actually turn out to be from a different planet, Arthur.
Good God, it's her! Trisha McMillan, what are you doing here?
Same as you, Arthur. I hitched a ride. After all, with a degree in maths and another in astrophysics, it was either that or back to the dole queue on Monday. Sorry I missed that Wednesday lunch date, but I was in a black hole all morning.
Oh God, Ford, this is Trillian. Hi, Trillian. This is my semi-cousin Ford, who shares 3 of the same mothers as me. Hi, Trillian. This is sort of a thing that's going to happen every time we use the information. Is this the sort of thing that's going to happen? Well, sorry, words. Is this sort of thing going to happen every time we use the infinite improbability drive?
Very probably, I'm afraid.
Zaphod Beeblebrox, this is a very large drink. Hi.
Will our heroes be able to enjoy a nice, relaxed evening at last? How will they cope with their new social roles? Will they survive the deadly missile attack which is launched on them 3 minutes into the next episode? Find out in next week's exciting installment of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Hi there, this is Eddie, your shipboard computer. I just want to mention here that we're now moving into orbit around the legendary planet of Magratea. Sorry to interrupt your social evening. Have a good time.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much for watching. If you're watching live, you know who you are. But I'm enjoying this so much. I love this stuff. It's so good.
This is very fun.
This is exactly
great.
my shit.
I love this.
We get to use our fun accents.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck yeah. I get to flex our voice acting chops.
Yeah.
Me have a conversation with myself as a cheery spaceman and a very depressed robot.
Yeah.
Also,
Don't even get me started.
I feel Marvin in my whole soul.
Oh, Marvin is an entire mood, and I hate it.
When I saw I was assigned as Marvin, I was so jazzed.
Yeah. In any case, if you're watching the VOD, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't followed me, maybe you want to keep up with the series. It would be nice to have you here. If you have followed me and you haven't subscribed and that's something you want to do, I would love it if you did. If you're listening / watching on YouTube, there's a bunch of stuff you can do. You can like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, demand that I show knees, lots of stuff. And yeah, until next time, we will see you later.
Bye.
Bye.